Hare Krishna. Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think.
Yeah, Nitya, go ahead.
Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Salakaye Chakshur Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vitapadakamadam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sasi Rupam Sakajadam Sahagana Raghunadam Sadam Vidam Tam Sadhivam Sadvaitam Savadudam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sarakana Lalita Sri Vishaham Vidam Sa Sri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopika Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Supadevi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarupasya Sa Kripa Sindhu Bhayevasa Patitanam Pavanabhayo Vaishnavabhayo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Viranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will continue Canto 1, Chapter 15 from verse 39 onwards. And then, time permitting, we will straddle into Chapter 16. But first I will answer inquiries submitted by devotees. Just a quick announcement that next Sunday, 11th of May, at batch 5, there is the offenses to avoid class. So if anybody wants a refresher, you can join. So it will be immediately after our this class ends. So batch 5 class starts at 9:30 a.m. Toronto time. So 30 minutes after this batch 3 and 4 class ends. So if anybody is interested, you can consider to please join. All right, inquiries. Question number 1. What was Gandhari's curse that led to the destruction of Yadu dynasty? Just as Pandavas and Kauravas of the same family fought among themselves, therefore Gandhari cursed Krishna that Krishna's family members will also fight among themselves and kill each other. And that's exactly what happened with the Yadus fighting among themselves and killing each other. Question number 2. What happens at the time of death to one who is not a devotee but has received tulsi beads from a devotee? So Bhagavad Gita 8.5 says, if one remembers Krishna at the time of death, then one attains Krishna. And alternatively, other option is Bhagavad Gita 8.6. It says, whatever else you will remember, that's what you will attain. So if one is not a devotee, it generally will be a little hard for that person to remember Krishna at the time of death. Now, tulsi beads could be helpful. What you can do is to try to read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam verses, or play Srila Prabhupada Japa, or you do Japa besides the person who is about to leave the body, so that he may have Krishna as his last thought. But it still is up to the person leaving the body to remember Krishna at the time of death. You can just create an environment around him. Does that answer?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, couple of follow-up on that. So the difference between the Yamadutas versus the Vishnudutas appearing, and then the second point is that so if someone at the very end of life, utters the holy name, I don't know if meaningfully they utter, but if they utter the holy name at the very end, or even at the very end of their life, they accept Lord, will their life then, will they then be liberated?
Yeah, so if you read 8.5, the key word is smaranam. So we have discussed this in 8.5 that we cannot take a shortcut that somebody is frustrated with life on earth and he knows 8.5 Bhagavad Gita that if I take Krishna's name at the end, then I will be relieved. So he picks up a gun and uh, shoots himself while saying Krishna. Well, even though he may be uttering Krishna, it's still, he may not be remembering. So the verse 8.5 says, Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. Remembrance is important, not just the utterance. The Ajamil pastime, where Ajamil was a devotee, but then fell down from his position of Brahmana and was involved with prostitute and whatnot. And towards the end of his life, he called out his son, who he had named as Narayan. And Yamadutas came to protect him. So this is to teach us that the holy name is so powerful that even if somebody utters the holy name towards the end of their life unknowingly, even they can get protected by Vishnu Dutas. Well, then how much more beneficial it is and certain it is that if somebody takes the holy name consciously with love and devotion, well, they will obviously be protected. So it's not a black and white answer that somebody is just saying Krishna. That on itself does not mean that they are remembering Krishna. It's a remembrance. Nitya, you want to go to Bhagavad Gita 8.5 and you can also recite if you like and then read the translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Bhagavad Gita 8.5 Antakale samameva smaranmukta kalevanam ya prayati samadbhavam yadi na asat samsaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt.
Right? Smaran is remembering. Nitya, does that answer?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Everybody on the same page? Question number 3. Yudhishthir thought of succession plan as a king. He handed over the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj. Why did he not consider a plan for his wife too? Is this not unbecoming of a responsible husband? So I had briefly hinted on this point at our last class when I showed the image of Yudhishthir traveling to the north by himself. Now this point that Yudhishthir as well as the rest of the Pandavas individually performed their respective sadhana to go back to Godhead, and none of them asked Draupadi and Subhadra. This is an important lesson from this chapter 15 and is a heavy discussion in our today's class very, very soon. So I will park this question for few minutes and will get answered in our class very, very shortly. And if it doesn't get answered, then you can further discuss. Is that okay?
जी प्रभु जी।
Question number 4. Kunti Maharani is said to be overhearing Arjuna's description of Krishna leaving. Earlier, Srila Prabhupada described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.3 and 4 purport that Kunti left with Gandhari to forest. So how do you understand this? So very good reading with rapt attention and close attention. So I will bring up this verse 13, 3 and 4 on the screen, and I will explain what actually happened. So what the devotee is pointing out is, I will bring up. So this paragraph where it says Pratha, that is Kunti's another name. So it's describing brief history about Kunti Maharani. And the statement in the next paragraph is what led to this question about Kunti Maharani. So I want somebody to read from here the last few lines. So her prayers. So this is Kunti Maharani's prayers. Pragya, you can read what is highlighted on screen.
जी प्रभु जी। Her prayers for the Lord after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was going back home, are excellently explained. Later, she went to the forest with Gandhari for severe penance. She used to take meals after each 30 days. She finally sat down in profound meditation and later buried to ashes in the forest fire. Hare
Burn to
Krishna.
ashes. Yeah. So
Burned to ashes. Sorry.
So because in the purport that we just read, only brief explanation is given, and it's very easy to get confused. So let me clarify the sequence of events, and this will become crystal clear. So we'll go a little back in history. So Kunti Maharani's husband Pandu died when he tried to mate with the second wife Madri, because of the curse that as soon as Pandu will attempt to mate with a female, he will die. So Kunti Maharani, as elder and the first wife, Kunti Maharani said that Kunti will enter the funeral pyre while Madri will stay alive to take care of the kids. And Madri gave two reasons. That first, Madri said that Madri is the reason for Pandu's death, and second, that Madri herself is not as elevated like Kunti Maharani, hence Madri may not be equal to all five Pandavas, because the first three Pandavas, meaning Yudhishthir, Arjuna and Bhima, are Kunti's children, and rest of Nakula and Sahadev are Madri's children, although Madri got the children using Kunti's boon to be able to invite any demigod to beg out the children. So based on these reasons of Madri, Kunti Maharani agreed to stay alive to take care of the kids as a matter of duty. This is very important. Kunti stayed alive to take care of kids as a matter of duty. Now, after the Kurukshetra war was finished, Kunti said to Yudhishthir Maharaj that she, meaning Kunti, now wants to go to the forest. And Yudhishthir was surprised. And Yudhishthir said that we all have suffered so much. Now that the war is over, it is time to relax and enjoy. So Kunti Maharani said that Kunti did not enter the funeral pyre to take care of the kids only as a matter of duty. And Kunti had no desire to become Rajmata and enjoy. Therefore, Kunti left for forest for penance. So this is immediately after the war. So what we read on the screen, it said Kunti went to the forest. So this is when after the war ended that Kunti went to the forest for penance. Separately, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari were living in the palace in Hastinapur. And later, after Vidura chastised Dhritarashtra, so one particular night, without telling anybody, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari plus Vidura, these three left Hastinapur and went to forest without telling anyone where they are going. So Kunti Maharani did not go to the forest with Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Vidura. She was separately in the forest doing her penance. And we read in chapter 13 that when Dhritarashtra, Gandhari left for forest, that Dhritarashtra left his body by creating a fire by Ashtanga Yoga, and Gandhari entered the funeral pyre of Dhritarashtra. Kunti is nowhere there around them. Later, when Arjuna comes back from Dwarka with the news that Krishna has gone back to Goloka Vrindavan, hence all Pandavas, one by one, including Kunti Maharani, left the material world and reached Goloka Vrindavan. Now, this is also coming up in our today's discussion. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.15.33 describes that Kunti heard Arjuna stating about the end of Yadu dynasty. Hence, Kunti engaged in full attention to Krishna and attained release from material existence. So in continuity of the discussion, we can right now read 1.15.33 translation. Divya, translation 1.15.33.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention, and thus gained release from the course of material existence.
Does that answer the inquiry and clear the confusion from the sequence of events I described?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Last question for today. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.11.30. How to understand Lord has unlimited desires and at the same time is full and satisfied in himself. So Sri Upanishad also describes many contradicting qualities of Krishna, such as he is far, he is near, he walks, but he does not walk. And further, I personally never understood how is Krishna maintaining every living entity, still he is fully renounced. How is that possible? So it is not possible for us to understand everything about Krishna. Only Lord Kapila, Shiva and Srila Narad Muni know everything about the Lord. So for us, when we hear such contradictions, we can remember the Achintya Bhed Abhed Tattva, meaning simultaneous oneness and difference, as well as we can remember the bewildering quality of Krishna from Kunti Maharani prayers. But to be able to understand Krishna fully, it's not possible. Don't even try to go there because you will end up hitting a dead end. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
All right, striking points, 2 slides. This is slide number 1 on the screen. And slide number 2. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So we will now continue from Canto 1, chapter 15, verse number 39 onwards. So we discussed at our last class that when Yudhishthir heard about Krishna winding up his pastime, Yudhishthir Maharaj became disinterested with this world because pure devotee wants to serve the Lord. Hence, Yudhishthir decided to go back to Godhead. And we discussed about the retirement of Yudhishthir and the Pandavas. The lessons learned from Yudhishthir's retirement is that we need to make a plan to focus on Krishna consciousness. I should train the children to look after the household affairs so that I can retire. And this discussion about retirement will continue. We only covered 2 verses about the retirement, 37 and 38 of chapter 15. And from 39, that discussion still continues. And we will read these verses and purports, and we will try to capture and discuss key points. So as we read through these purports, try to note down key points, as well as you can compare with the situation in the material world and see what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. Vimal Prabhu, 39 translation and purport, chapter 15. We cannot hear you. Vimal Prabhu, we still cannot hear you. All right, Shivangi, 39 translation and purport.
Hare Krishna, verse 39, translation. Then he posted Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, grandson of Lord Krishna, at Mathura as the king of Surasena. Afterwards, Maharaja Yudhishthira performed a Prajapatya sacrifice and placed in himself the fire for quitting household life. Purport. Maharaja Yudhishthira, after placing Maharaja Parikshit on the imperial throne of Hastinapura and after posting Vajra, the great grandson of Lord Krishna, as the king of Mathura, accepted the renounced order of life. The system of 4 orders of life and 4 castes in terms of quality and work, known as Varnashrama Dharma, is the beginning of real human life, and Maharaja Yudhishthira, as the protector of this system of human activities, timely retired from active life as a sannyasi, handing over the charge of the administration to a trained prince, Maharaja Parikshit. The scientific system of Varnashrama Dharma divides the human life into 4 divisions of occupation and 4 orders of life. The 4 orders of life, as Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, are to be followed by all, irrespective of the occupational division. Modern politicians do not wish to retire from active life, even if they are old enough, but Maharaja Yudhishthira, as an ideal king, voluntarily retired from active administrative life to prepare himself for the next life. Everyone's life must be so arranged that the last stage of life, say at least the last 15 to 20 years prior to death, can be absolutely devoted to the devotional service of the Lord to attain the highest perfection of life. It is really foolishness to engage oneself all the days of one's life in material enjoyment and fruitive activities, because as long as the mind remains absorbed in fruitive work for material enjoyment, there is no chance of getting out from conditioned life or material bondage. No one should follow the suicidal policy of neglecting one's supreme task of attaining the highest perfection of life, namely going back to home, back to Godhead.
So, what are the key points from the purport? Somebody quickly, we have a lot to cover.
No one should follow the suicidal policy, neglecting their task of attaining the highest perfection.
All right, very good.
Key points.
Okay, what else? Abhishek Prabhu.
Everyone should make arrangement to fully dedicate their life for spiritual practices. As Prabhupada mentions, at least 50 to 20 years of their end of life.
Very good. Nitya?
Prabhu, the highlight of the Varnashrama Dharma, which is the way to attain the highest perfection, and that we should dedicate our 15 to 20 of the last years of our life to devotional service completely.
Okay, very good. Another important point nobody has yet said. Gauri?
We should not strive for material sense enjoyment until the end of our life.
Yeah, very good. So, modern politicians do not wish to retire. And Prabhupada said that life must be so arranged that at least last 15, 20 years before death, one should be absolutely devoted to devotional service and not in material fruitive activities, because as long as mind is absorbed in fruitive activities, there is no chance of coming out of conditioned life. So this is the important point that Prabhupada explained. So besides the politician, besides the 15, 20 years and not being involved in material life, this about the mind is a very important point from the purport, that mind plays a crucial role in the yoga practice, that whatever mind thinks will get reflected in our words and actions. When you have to renounce, you have to know how to train the mind. The answer is use the mind in Krishna conscious activities. Become more spiritualized. Relinquish material world. So the point is that don't expand your material life to such a level that your engagement in material world is so huge that you are completely entangled. Rather, your activity has to be so arranged that your mind is free for Krishna conscious activities. Otherwise, mind and senses are going to be engaged in material activities and will keep you entangled in material world and drag you away. One should plan to close down the grahastha life At the beginning of Grahastha life. So at the beginning of Grahastha life means the day you get married or decide to get married, that's when you should plan out your Vanaprastha life. So Vanaprastha does not mean you have to go to Himalayas or forest. Vanaprastha means to take up Krishna consciousness seriously. One has to learn to reduce the involvement in worldly duties and spend more time on Krishna conscious activities. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, what do you mean by close Grihastha life at the beginning of Grihastha life?
Close.
How does one think about that at the beginning when you are in a completely different frame of mind?
Yeah. So if you are a devotee from the start of your life or as soon as is possible, then you will most likely marry into a Krishna conscious family. So at the start of your married life, you will make a plan that I will train my children and hand over the household affairs to the children so that I can focus on Krishna consciousness. Now, possible that many of us have come to Krishna consciousness way past when the Grihastha life started. So you can make the plan as soon as is possible, anytime now. That plan for rest of your life that your mind is not completely entangled in fruitive activities in the material world. Don't expand your material world engagement to be so huge that you are having no time for spirituality. Just keep the body and soul together and focus more on spirituality. Try to hand over the household affairs to children as soon as they become capable. Okay.
Ji Prabhuji. That's for Krishna conscious people who began early.
Yeah, and so for us, we can start as soon as is possible, means anytime now. We don't have to wait any longer. We can just start planning from now.
Ji Prabhuji. Thank you.
Everybody on the same page? All right. So we'll now go to verse number 40. Vimal Prabhu, you want to try if you can read now? Can we hear you?
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Was it you trying to join from some another line?
Yes, Prabhu. I was trying to join from my phone.
Yeah, but I don't know who Samsung is, so I couldn't.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. If you can hear me, thank you.
Yeah, so
Hare
verse
Krishna.
number 40, translation and purport.
Thank you, Prabhu. Verse number 40. Maharaja Yudhishthir at once relinquished all his garments, belt, and ornaments of the royal order and becomes completely disinterested and unattached to everything. Purport: to become purified of material contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord. No one can become an associate of the Lord or can go back to Godhead without such purification. Maharaj Yudhishthir, therefore, to become spiritually pure, at once gave up his royal opulences, relinquishing his royal dress and garments. The the kasha or saffron loincloths of the sannyasi indicates freedom from all attractive material garments, and thus he changed his dress accordingly. He became disinterested in his kingdom and family, and thus become free from all material contaminations. All material designations. People are generally attached to various kinds of designations. The designations of family, society, country, occupation, wealth, position, and many others. As long as one is attached to such designations, he is considered material impure. So, the so called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness, but they do not know such false consciousness is also another designations of the materially conditioned soul. One has to relinquish all designations before one can become eligible to go back to Godhead. Foolish people adore such men who dies in national consciousness. But here is an example of Maharaj Yudhishthir, a royal king who prepared himself to leave his world without such national consciousness, and yet he is remembered even today because he was a great pious king, almost on the same level with the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna.
Yeah.
And because people of the world were dominated by such pious kings, they are they are happy in all respects, and it was quite possible for such great emperors to rule the world. Hare
Mm.
Krishna.
Key points from the verse, and you can see on the screen that how what is described in the purport that we just read, that Maharaj Yudhishthir gave up all his opulences, picked up a saffron cloth, left by himself alone. Nobody is with him. He is just going by himself. And this is a very important learning with upcoming verse also. Okay, key points quickly from this verse.
Before retirement, to relinquish such destinations or whatever we possess, that is very important.
Yeah, relinquish designations. And Prabhupada gives very good examples that family, society, country, your occupation, wealth. And then Prabhupada says that foolish people adore men who die in national consciousness. No, they may be remembered around that time, but then everybody forgets. And therefore, Prabhupada says that on the other hand, Yudhishthir Maharaj is example of royal king who gave up everything, including the national consciousness, and he's remembered even today, almost at the same level with the personality of Godhead Sri Ram. All right, very good. What else? Yeah, so this purification from material designation is the necessary qualification to become an associate of the Lord. As long as I am attached to material designations, I am considered materially impure. So freeing ourselves from material designation is not easy. But the lesson is, on our own, we cannot give up designations. Therefore, sadhu sangha is important. Sadhu cuts the designations and tells us that how we are souls and we are Krishna's servants. And therefore, we also need shelter of spiritual master, because spiritual masters are not under the control of the modes, and they will help us get out of these material designations. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So is this path of leaving everything at the end of the life, is it generally practiced today also? Because no
So
one knows
Prabhupada
when.
we read in the previous verse, Prabhupada has said other places also that vanaprastha does not mean you have to go to the forest or Himalayas. Today, forests don't even exist that much. And even if you go to forest, you won't find sadhus there. You will only find animals. Sadhus also are not there in forest. So vanaprastha means you can still live in the city wherever you are. Just don't get entangled in the material activities. Just focus the last 15, 20 years more on Krishna consciousness. That's what vanaprastha means, and that's what Prabhupada has been explaining in purports and in lectures. Abhishek Prabhu.
So that may also mean that, like, if someone's job or responsibility is a spiritual role, so they can continue in that.
Yeah, spiritual roles you will obviously continue. That is actually perfect, that you are using more of your time in spiritual activities.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll now read verse number 41, translation and purport. Pragya, 41, translation and purport. Faster pace, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Verse 41 translation. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind, then the mind into life, life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of 5 elements, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life. Hare Krishna. Purport also, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, like his brother Arjun, began to concentrate and gradually became freed from all material bondage. He first concentrated all the actions of the senses and amalgamated them into mind, or in other words, he turned his mind towards transcendental service of the Lord. He prayed that since all material activities are performed by the mind in terms of actions and reactions of the material senses, and since he was going back to Godhead, the mind would wind up its material activities and be turned towards transcendental service to the Lord. There was no longer a need for material activities. Actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped, for they are a reflection of eternal soul, but the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to transcendental service of the Lord. The material color of the mind is changed when one washes it clean from the contaminations of life breathing and thereby frees it from contamination of repeated births and deaths and situates it in pure spiritual life. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of material body, which is a production of mind at the time of death. And if the mind is purified by practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord and is constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is no more chance of mind producing another material body after death. It will be freed from absorption in material contamination. The pure soul will be able to return home back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
So this verse explains the process of how to go back home to Godhead. What are the key points you captured?
Probably the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to the transcendental service of the Lord. And constantly engage in the service of the Lord.
Yeah, very good. So the activities of the mind cannot be stopped. There is no off switch. Rather, the quality of the activities has to be changed from material world entangling activities to devotional service of the Lord. Everybody on the same page?
Ji Prabhuji.
All right. Matan Prabhu, 42, 43 and 44 translations.
Hare Krishna. 42. Thus annihilating the body, cross body of the 5 elements into 3 qualitative modes of material nature, he merged them in one nescience and then absorbed that nescience in the self, Brahman, which is inaccessible in all circumstances. 43. After that, Maharaja Yudhishthir dressed himself in torn clothing, gave up eating all solid food, voluntarily became dumb, and let his hair hang loose. All this combined to make him look like an urchin or madman with no occupation. He did not depend on his brothers for anything, and just like a deaf man, he heard nothing. 44. He then started toward the north, treading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he lived in that way wherever he went. Hare Krishna.
So after distributing the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj and Vajra, Yudhishthira did not think himself as emperor of the world. Such freedom of material relations makes one free to act as servitor of the Lord. And then he followed in the footsteps of forefathers. And similarly, other Pandavas also decided to follow Yudhishthira individually and individually go back home to Godhead. Questions, comments, realizations on the verses that we started from 37 to 44 on Yudhishthira's retirement? Nitya?
Prabhu, text 42, where it says, merge the 5 elements into the modes of material nature and then merge them in one neosense and then in the self. So does the reference neosense here talks about ahankara or false ego, and then he merged the false ego in the self, which is the spirit soul?
So this is the Ashtanga Yoga process. We don't need to worry about this process. So I briefly described this earlier. So not in this class. I've described this in batch 3 and 4. It is described in Canto 3 about creation, and I'll explain this with an analogy. That how we leave our mind and all these subtle elements behind. So understand the example of a firefighter. So say in the fire department office, where this places where they have this firefighting engine and they have all their equipments. So when they get a call for fire, the firefighter who is sitting and working on a desk, he will have separate bins where his equipment is there. So he will, from one bin, he will grab the suit, then the helmet, then the gloves. All these are in different bins, his shoes, and he goes to the firefighting. And then when he comes back, he will drop all his items again in these separate bins. So the shoes will go in the shoe bin, the helmet will go in the helmet bin, the dress will go in the dress bin. Similarly, as part of creation, everybody's mind is one big lump during the time of creation. And then everybody is given a portion from that big lump. And when we go back, we dump this mind back into that big bin or that big lump. And this is how we give up our subtle and gross bodies when we are purified and we go back home to Godhead. Nitya?
Thank you, Prabhu. I think we have discussed this before, and now I can remember, and I'm sure we'll discuss it more when we go to Canto 2. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. Pragya?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the whole the battle of Kurukshetra was fought for the kingdom. Now, after they have got the kingdom, they are quitting it. So, was there some curse, or was this that they were not supposed to rule?
So what have we discussed? We discussed this earlier, that the sages asked that what was the purpose of Yudhishthira becoming the king? So what was the purpose of Yudhishthira becoming the king? Anybody remembers from the earlier discussion? We forget.
Lord
Prabhu,
Abhishek Prabhu.
Lord Krishna wanted an administrator who could be a devotee.
Yeah, very good. Nitya.
yes, Prabhu, to fulfill Lord Krishna's desire and
Right.
wishes.
So Yudhishthir did not fight the war to become a king. Yudhishthir fought the war to satisfy Krishna's desire to remove unwanted kings from earth. And Yudhishthir became the king so as to satisfy Krishna, because Krishna wanted devotees to rule so that citizens can perform Krishna conscious activities and go back home to Godhead. Pragya, does that help? Yudhishthir never wanted to become king.
Ji Prabhuji, no, I was not asking about Yudhishthir's desire. I was asking about the purpose of the war, to eliminate those people who were, as you just explained, who were like people like Duryodhan, who were non-devotees, from ruling, and give it to Yudhishthir, but then Yudhishthir has to go away.
Yeah, so we discussed this, I think it's in Canto 1, Chapter 7 someplace, or plus minus around that place, that Lord made a shortcut to assemble all the demoniac kings and remove them in one shot. And then he placed, but now Kali Yuga is flourishing, so that's the next step. That's the next event happening, and you cannot link by saying, well, but you put me on the throne. Well, now there's another event happening in the sequence. So now that Kali Yuga is flourishing and Krishna has gone back, so pure devotees like Yudhishthira and Pandavas say, well, okay, I have to also follow the Lord. Pragya.
Thank you.
Everybody on the same page about the verses 37 to 44 on Yudhishthira's retirement? So this point about retirement is an important conversation in this chapter 15, and another important point is coming up in next few verses very, very soon. Verses 47, 48, and 49 are straightforward, and verse number 49 is the verse I was pointing to Pragya a couple classes back about Vidura going back to his position as Yamraj. Malti, 47, 48, 49 translations.
Hare Krishna, 647 and 48. Thus, by pure consciousness, due to the constant devotional remembrance, they attain the spiritual sky, which is ruled over by the Supreme Narayana, Lord Krishna. This is attained only by those who meditate upon the one Supreme Lord without deviation. This abode of the Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in the material conception of life. But the Pandavas, being completely washed of material contamination, attained that abode in their very same bodies. Text 49. Vidura, while on pilgrimage, left his body at Prabhasa because he was absorbed in the of Krishna. He was received by the denies of the Pitraloka planet, where he returned to his original post. Hare Krishna.
Right. So if you read 49 purport, it's about Vidura going back to his original position as Yamraj. And in the purport, I think it explains about Aryama's running the post of Yamraj while Vidura was as Vidura. Pragya, does that give you the direct reference to your earlier point?
Ji Prabhuji, thank you so much. Prabhuji, may I ask something? Prabhuji, this we are talking about in text 47-48 that Pandavas, being completely washed of all their material contamination, attained their abode in the very same bodies. Whereas Vidur, he left his body at Prabhasa. So, Prabhuji, how are they going to the abode with bodies and without bodies? That's a place for souls, right?
Yeah, but you still have a body. Yes, the soul is there, but you still get a body. And it's not the same for everyone. So here, and this is also described for Narad Muni in Canto 1, Chapter 5 and 6, that in the previous life as a 5-year-old boy, Narad Muni's body already became completely spiritual. He had a body, but it became already completely spiritual. And then next life, he comes out from Mahavishnu's womb, which was also the next millennium, as Srila Narad Muni. So Pandavas went back to Goloka Vrindavan, while Vidura went back to Pitraloka for his duties as Yamraj. That's a fact. That's what is described in these verses. That Pandavas purified their body completely. And that's what they went back home to Godhead in the same body. Okay.
Ji Prabhuji, it's a blending of materiality into spirituality is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. All right, very good. Very important verse coming up, verse number 50. This is the next important learning from this chapter number 50, and a very, very important learning for all of us. Chandran Prabhu, verse number 50, translation and purport. So what will happen in verse number 50 is question number 3 from the question answer session, that how come Yudhishthir did not make a plan for Draupadi and his wife? Is this unbecoming of a responsible husband? That was the question. Will get answered in verse number 50, and a very, very important learning for all of us. This is the second crux of this chapter 15. First was about the retirement plan, and the second crux is this verse number 50. Chandran Prabhu, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 50. Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husbands. Purport. When flying an airplane, one cannot take care of other planes. Everyone has to take care of his own plane. And if there is any danger, no other plane can help. Another in that condition. Similarly, at the end of life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without help rendering another. The help is, however, offered on the ground before flying in space. Similarly, the spiritual master, the father, the mother, the relatives, the husband, and others can all render help during one's lifetime. But while crossing the sea, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions formally received. Draupadi had 5 husbands, and no one asked Draupadi to come. Draupadi had to take care of herself without waiting for her great husbands. And because she was already trained, she at once took concentration upon the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The wives also got the same result as their husbands in the same manner. That is to say, without changing their bodies, they reached the destination of Godhead. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura suggests that both Draupadi and Subhadra, although her name is not mentioned herein, got the same result none of them had to quit the body. Hare Krishna.
So Draupadi did not think that no one cares for her. At the end of life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without help rendered by another. And the analogy explained that just as when flying an airplane, one cannot take care of other airplanes. Neither if I am flying my airplane, I cannot get help from other airplane. The help is offered while you are on the ground before flying in space. The spiritual master, father, mother, relatives, etc. can render help during one's lifetime while you are on earth. But while crossing the sea, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions formally received, exactly what Draupadi and Subhadra Maharani did. So Draupadi's 5 husbands did not ask her to come. But Draupadi did not say, how come nobody's asking me? Why? Because Draupadi had to take care of herself without waiting for her great husbands. And because Draupadi was also already trained in Krishna consciousness, she and Subhadra Maharani also at once took to concentration upon the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And both Draupadi and Subhadra Maharani also achieved the same result in the same manner without changing bodies, and they reached the same destination as their husbands back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan. Questions, comments, realizations from this?
Prabhuji, sorry.
Pragya?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the translation says that Draupadi also saw her husbands without caring for her, were leaving home. So she feels that there was a lack of care. But
no, there wasn't a lack of care. She's just saying they are leaving, and she realized what was going on. It's not about lack of care. She just sees that, okay, this event is happening, so I also need to take up the meditation on Krishna to go back home to Godhead.
Thank you.
Abhishek Prabhu.
This analogy of flying our own plane and we get help on earth and not in sky, is that have a direct correlation to our life? Like what is earth here, what is sky here?
Yeah. What the analogy is explaining is that while you are living this life, you can get help. But at the end of your life, when you are about to leave the body, is like you are trying to fly your airplane into space. Well, then you have no option to get help. You just have to be by yourself. Abhishek Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, one more question. Like this, none of them had to quit. Like not quitting the body, is this of any specific significance?
You can just leave it alone. They just got purified. Don't focus too much on that part.
Yes. Thank you.
Nitya.
Thank you. So this rendering of help, and I know in the order the spiritual master, the parents, the husband, and others, but ultimately it's God's mercy, right? Because there are so many who are not going to get all this help in their lifetime, not in this, not ever. And then there are others who are going to get all the help, and then some others who get some help. So there is going to be some variations in the guidance we receive in our lifetime.
Yeah, so your point that somebody will never get help is not correct. Everyone is in an evolution cycle. So yes, some get a lot of help right now, some get little help, and rest of the help will come in subsequent lives, and therefore material existence is created for 311 trillion 40 billion plus minus few million years, because everybody is in this evolution cycle, that everybody is living their life according to their karma and one by one coming to the human form of life, and they keep getting mercy, and one by one everybody is going back home to Godhead, or at least everybody should be going back home to Godhead one by one. Although looking right now doesn't seem like anybody is going, but that's the plan. That's why material existence is very long, of 311 trillion plus years.
Prabhu, a follow-up. So, in our human form of life, at some point, there would be a chance. There would be the path. You know, it's our free will. We just don't, in every person's lifetime, in one lifetime, would there be this opportunity that they would get the guidance, or there would be some lives where we would get no opportunity?
So some humans may not get opportunity in current life, they may get in future life. So you cannot consider life as just one life. One life is just a milestone, and every new life is a milestone. It's just a continuation. It goes on and on and on. Exactly how I described that karma is an endless loop. So life continues again and again and again. So humans will get mercy at some point of time. We don't know when. It's possible some may get mercy in next cycle of creation. But human body is designed to take the jiva back home to Godhead. Whether somebody uses their free will properly to go back home to Godhead is up to them. Nitya?
Prabhu, but when we are granted the human life, we are granted the highest, higher level of consciousness, and even if it is one life, many lives, all. But when in the human life, they should see the opportunity, or they should at least see the possibility that we would come upon this at some point in every human life. That's my question.
The human life has the built-in capacity, still is up to the free will of the jiva, whether they want to pursue spirituality or not. So there are millions and billions of human beings on earth, but not everybody is pursuing spirituality because their free will they are using for material enjoyment. Capacity is there in every human, but the free will is still their own free will.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
All right. So we started with a question answer session that question number 3, we will come back and discuss later on. Does that answer question number 3? I will bring up on screen again. So question number 3 was, Yudhishthir thought of succession plan as a king and he handed over the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj. Why did he not consider a plan for his wife too? Is this not unbecoming of a responsible husband? Does this question get answered?
Ji Prabhuji, so this handing over, preparing a succession plan for continuation of the kingdom, that is material and that has to be performed. But when it is coming to leaving life, that time it becomes spiritual, and for that no plan is required. Everyone has to take care of himself or herself without any help from others.
Yeah, absolutely correct understanding, both ways, material and spiritual, yes. So all of you should also make a plan for yourself, for your spiritual life, without depending on me. I am not eternal. Plus, Maya is very strong. So, I have been pushing you all, and every time I put on my Gabbar Singh hat, you all do your endeavors properly. And then when I stop putting on my Gabbar Singh hat, then you are back to your regular routine of not doing your endeavors. So I have stopped telling you. So you need to recognize from this 1.15.50 verse that you have to fly your own plane. I cannot help you. So you have to make a succession plan for yourself without me being in picture. Otherwise, you are not really learning anything here. I cannot be holding your hand again and again and again. I anyway have stopped for a very long time. So still not everybody does their endeavors. And Bhagavatam clearly describes help is available while you are on ground. So yes, I have given you almost absolutely everything that I have learned. I haven't really kept anything back to myself. Many of you are endeavoring properly, but not 100% of you. Therefore, the class size continues to shrink and shrink and shrink. And every last time I had this discussion, few more have fallen off because they are not endeavoring. So you have to take responsibility for yourself, for your spiritual life. You have to make a plan for yourself without me being in picture, because I am not eternal and Maya is very strong. Questions, comments, realizations? I got pin drop silence. All right, the benediction of this chapter is described in the last verse. Gauri, 51 translation.
Hare Krishna. Verse 51. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of first canto, 15th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Pandavas Retire Timely. Questions, comments, realizations on this very important chapter? Very practical learnings. Abhishek Prabhu?
Actually, I have heard little debate on this question. Even though we hear that like our spiritual life things are not fixed, is it so that how or when someone is going to spiritual world, there is something fixed in that?
Something fixed meaning? What exactly?
Is it fixed? Is it fixed that when or how someone will go?
So Krishna consciousness is the only thing that is not fixed. It depends on the use of your free will and depends on the level of your endeavor. This is the only one thing that is not fixed, because this is not karma. Karma is destined, is fixed. Karma is fixed, or karma is destined as in the incidents that are written in our karma, the good or bad, they are fixed. And even in those incidents, what we do is up to us. But Krishna consciousness, meaning our spiritual endeavor is not fixed from before. It clearly depends on our pious activity, we getting mercy, agyat, sukruti, and our endeavor, and using our free will properly.
Thank you.
Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So we will straddle into chapter 16 briefly. And we won't finish this chapter. We will continue in our next class. So we discussed at great length in chapter 15 about the retirement of Yudhishthira, a lot of learning for us, as well as we just discussed about the Pandavas living by themselves and they did not care for Draupadi and Subhadra Maharani. And Draupadi and Subhadra Maharani being devotees, they understood that and they also followed by themselves the process that they have learned before and went back home to Godhead. And now the birth of Parikshit Maharaj and activities are continuing to discuss. So birth was described earlier, and now the conversation is continuing about the activities and the deliverance of Parikshit Maharaj. So chapter 16 is titled How Parikshit Maharaj Received the Age of Kali. This chapter 16 describes the conversation between Dharma and Earth. So Dharma is in the form of bull and Earth is in the form of a cow. This chapter 16 also describes the symptoms of the age of Kali Yuga. This chapter 16 is divided into two parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 16. Parikshit Maharaj receives Kali and initiates a tour. Part 2 is verses 17 to 36. Dharma questions Earth about her misery in Kali Yuga. Shivangi?
Abhishek, can you please repeat part 1 again?
Part 1 is verses 1 to 16. Parikshit Maharaj perceives Kali and initiates a tour.
Initiates a tour?
Yeah.
A tour meaning like TOUR?
Yeah,
Yeah.
travel tour, yeah. So earlier when I said I must have misspoken that part 1 title as received Kali. So it is Parikshit Maharaj perceives Kali and initiates a tour. Part 2 is verses 17 to 36. Dharma questions Earth about her misery in Kali Yuga. So Earth will reply, citing separation from Krishna because she is bereaved from the lotus feet marks of Krishna, as well as due to the increase of Kali's influence. So verse number 1 in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king, and the comparison is made with modern leaders, that how modern leaders have failed to protect the citizens. Nitya, verse 1, translation and purport, chapter 16.
Yes, Prabhu. Text 1. Suta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaj Parikshit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the Christ-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. At the time of Maharaj Parikshit's birth, the expert astrologer Brahmanas foretold some of his qualities. Maharaj Parikshit developed all of those qualities, being a great devotee of the Lord. The real qualification is to become a devotee of the Lord, and gradually all the good qualities worthy of possession will develop. Maharaj Parikshit was a Mahabhavata, or a first-class devotee, who was not only well versed in the sign of devotion, but also able to convert others to become devotees by his transcendental instruction. Maharaj Parikshit was therefore a devotee of the first order, and thus he used to consult great sages and learned brahmanas who could advise him by the shastras how to execute the state administration. Such great kings were more responsible than modern elected executive heads because they obliged the great authorities by following the instructions left in Vedic literature. There was no need of impractical codes to enact daily a new legislative law and to conveniently alter it again and again to serve some purpose. The rules and regulations were already set forth by the great sages like Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parasara, and other literature sages, and enactments were all suitable for all ages and all places. Therefore, the rules and regulations were standard and without flaw or defect. Kings like Maharaj Parikshit had their council of advisors, and all members of that council were either great sages or brahmanas of the first order. They did not accept any salaries, nor had they any necessity for such salaries. The state would get the best advice without expenditure. They were themselves samadarshi, equal to everyone, both man and animal. They would not advise the king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. Such council members were not fools or representatives to compose a fool's paradise. They were all self-realized souls, and they knew perfectly well how all living beings in the state would be happy, both in this lifetime and the next. They were not concerned with the hedonistic philosophy of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. They were philosophers in the real sense, and they knew well what is the mission of human life. Under all these obligations, the advisory council of the king would give correct directions, and the king or executive head, being himself a qualified devotee of the Lord, would scrutinizingly follow them for the welfare of the state. The state in the days of Maharaj Yudhishthira or Maharaj Parikshit was a welfare state in the real sense of the term, because no one was unhappy in that state, be he a man or animal. Maharaj Parikshit was an ideal king for a welfare state of the world.
So the state under Yudhishthir and Parikshit Maharaj was a welfare state in real terms, because no one was unhappy. Presently, leaders have started slaughterhouses, and they think at the cost of flesh of mother cow, they can bring economic development. But they are not realizing that mistreatment of the cow is the cause of disease and miseries and war in the material world. And we read in the purport the characteristics of king's advisors. The advisors to advise from scriptures on how to execute state administration. Advisors should follow instructions left in Vedic literatures, which are suitable for all ages and without any flaw. Instead of enacting new legislation daily and then conveniently altering it again and again. This enacting new legislation and then altering it again and again is so very common that whichever country the one government is in power, and the next election the opposite party comes in power, the first thing they do is they cancel all or many of the legislation of the previous government, and they create new, and say then the next election, if the previous party again comes into power, then they do the same. they cancel many of the legislations of previous government and then they enact new. Why? Because these are all contaminated people, unqualified people making laws that are suitable for themselves. But laws should be followed what Krishna has given because they are flawless. They are equal to everyone, whether it be humans or whether it be animals. And therefore, in the purport we read that animals are equal citizens. So advisors have to be either great sages or brahmanas. And advisors do not have to accept any salary for providing advice. Otherwise, the advice is contaminated to their salary. And the advisors have to be samadarshina, equal to both men and animals. So the advisors historically, they would not give advice to protect men and then say go and kill animals. No. They would have both men and animals as equal citizens. And these advisors have to be self-realized souls, and they should know how living beings in the state would be happy. How living beings will be happy is when they become a devotee of the Lord. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, these instructions are so unthinkable in the current yug.
So
I don't know how.
Yeah, we think they are unthinkable because our level of contamination has been so high that whatever is going on in the material world, we think that is okay, that is the standard. No, it is contaminated lower standard as compared to what it should be. So just because something is going on in the material world does not mean we have to accept and we have to also live like that. No, we can change. We don't have to blindly follow if something is wrong. No, we can change whatever is possible for us. So we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 verse 3 and 4, Krishna has said that material world is like a banyan tree, very strongly rooted and is very complex. Therefore, don't try to end the entire material existence. It is not possible. Rather, the analogy of the prison is given that a prisoner cannot end the entire prison house. The prisoner can end his own prison sentence by good behavior. And that's what verse number 3 and 4 in chapter 15 Bhagavad Gita says, that you end your existence in the material world by detachment and determination. Pragya.
Yes, Prabhuji. So it is for us about ourselves. It is not about what these politicians are going to do with the laws and all. And I don't know how that will ever change till the Kali Yuga ends.
That will never change. You are correct. Kali Yuga is actually going to become very bad as it continues to progress. So we just focus on ourselves, and we discussed in the other batch that the first 10,000 years in Kali Yuga are known as the Satyug. So Shivangi pointed out that the nomenclature Satyug within Kali Yuga is misleading. So why it is called as Satyug within Kali Yuga is because we are able to practice spirituality and have the ability and the avenue to go back home to Godhead in this first 10,000 years, of which roughly 500 years have passed. So it is for us to go back home to Godhead in the remaining 9,500 years. After that, it's going to be next to impossible or almost impossible to practice spirituality on earth.
जी प्रभु जी.
Abhishek Prabhu.
So yeah, how can we, like if someone is not into scripture, how can we explain these points on meditating or intoxication to them, like a general population?
So you have to start from basic. If you try to explain these advanced topics to newcomer, it's like explaining calculus to grade 1 math student. He's not going to understand and he will most likely say, what? I don't follow. I will drop off. And similarly, the new person will also say, what? This seems like some abstract thing that you are talking. So you have to start from where they are. And Krishna has taught us this in Bhagavad Gita. So Abhishek Prabhu, you were also there in yesterday's class where I discussed this at the Bhagavad Gita batch 6 and 7 class. So I have given the essence of first 6 chapters in one sentence, as well as the essence of first 6 chapters in one slide. But that's not what Krishna taught us in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna could have said the same to Arjuna. You are fool number 1. Drop everything and just focus on Bhagavad Gita, bhakti process. That's not what Krishna did. Krishna came down to Arjuna's bodily attachment level. First explained to him about the soul in chapter 2, verses 11 to 30. Then he explained to him about karma kanda, that if you want to live life wanting to enjoy in the material world, then live a karma kanda, dharmic way of life. Then Krishna explained Nishkam Karma Yoga and then Bhakti Yoga. So we don't have to jump the gun on somebody saying you are fool number 1, just take Bhakti Yoga. No, he's not going to understand. He does not have the purity at all. So for newcomers, what you do is give them prasad first. And start from basics. You are soul. You are not this body. Then these advanced subject matters will make sense. Otherwise, if you try to run a truckload of philosophy, well, they will get injured more and run away. Abhishek Prabhu.
So yeah, like prasadam is one point, and then speaking about like you are the soul is probably other initial things we can try to tell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Krishna has also explained this in Bhagavad Gita 17.15, the austerity of speech verse, that our speech should be pleasing first. And in 17.15, truthful is second, pleasing speech is first. So we don't have to speak the truth if we know that it may not be pleasing to someone. So we don't have to speak untrue statements, but we can stay silent and just talk about basic stuff. Very good. Divya, verse number 2 translation.
Hare Krishna. Translation. King Parikshit married the daughter of King Uttara and begot 4 sons headed by Maharaja Janamejaya.
So Janmejaya is the son of Parikshit Maharaj. And Janmejaya was very much aggrieved as to how his father Parikshit Maharaj died because of the serpent, because of the curse. And then Janmejaya started a sacrifice to extinguish all the serpents from material world. And then at the request of the sages, Janmejaya calmed down and did not complete the sacrifice. But Janmejaya still gave gifts to the sages because they had anyway come there. Abhishek Prabhu, verse number 3 translation.
Verse 3 translation. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 hour sacrifices on the banks of Ganges. These were executed with sufficient reward for the attendants, and at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods.
In the purport for verse number 3, Prabhupada explains that back then demigods also used to come to receive the yajna offerings. And in this way, people were also fortunate to see the demigods. Vimal Prabhu has a question.
Krishna used to call Kunti Maharani as a Bua, aunt. Is that they were related or they just called because she was belonging to the same village?
No, she was actually related. Vasudev means Krishna's father and Kunti Maharani are siblings.
So, Prabhu, this purport text number 2 we just read, and the second line says here, uh, in the Vedic system of marriage, the importance of the gotra or family was stressed. So, if you are not from the same gotra, you cannot marry. But how Arjuna married to Krishna's sister?
Yeah, so we discussed this in previous chapter, I think it was, that the relationship, the friendly relationship between Krishna and Arjuna is very unique relationship of friendship and very strong friendship relationship. And Krishna also further made the relationship strong by getting Subhadra Maharani married to Arjuna. So this was Krishna's plan. Yes, you are correct, and that's what, if you read verse number 2 purport, the very first paragraph, Prabhupada says that Arjuna also married Subhadra, although she was his maternal cousin's sister. Yeah, it's a fact. But understand, back then you cannot compare what is now versus back then. That was a completely different yuga, plus of course Lord's plan, and Subhadra Maharani and Arjuna are not ordinary individuals. Plus you will also, when we reach Canto 3, so Brahmaji's first children, meaning Swayambhuva Manu, the male child, and Satrupa, the female child, they marry each other. Here you are talking about cousin, but there it's not even cousin. They are coming from the same father, Brahmaji. Swayambhuva Manu and Satrupa marry each other because at that time there was no other living entity. They were given the task to populate the earth. So you cannot just blindly say, well, what is this going on? You have to understand according to the context. Vimal Prabhu?
See that because Shri Krishna belongs to Yadu dynasty,
Yeah.
and the Pandavas was from different dynasties. Then that makes sense because they are still not they're related, but they are not same gotra or last name, family name.
Yeah, well, don't go to family name. Well, they are related. There's no doubt about it. But there is lot many other contextual detail than just this one point.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Very good. Everybody on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. So verses 4 to 22 describe the symptoms of Kali. And as we read through these verses and purports, again make notes and compare with modern times. Plus, Prabhupada also gives the solution also many places in the purports, not just problem. Prabhupada also talks about solution, that what we should be doing when we see such symptoms of Kali Yuga. I mean, it's very obvious. When we read through these, it will become very obvious about the symptoms that we are about to read, that are all around us. All right. Abhishek Prabhu, if you want to read verse number 4, translation and purport.
Text 4 translation. Once when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Purpose. The purpose of a king going out to conquer the world is not for self-aggrandizement. Maharaj Parikshit went out to conquer the world after his ascendance to the throne, but this was not for the purpose of aggression on other states. He was the emperor of the world, and all small states were already under his regime. His purpose in going out was to see how things were going on in terms of the godly state. The king, being the representative of the Lord, has to execute the will of the Lord duly. There is no question of self-aggrandizement. Thus, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a lower class man in the dress of a king was hurting the legs of a cow and a bull, at once he arrested and punished him. The king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can he tolerate disrespect to the most important man, the Brahmana. Human civilization means to advance the cause of Brahmanical culture and to maintain it. Cow protection is essential. There is a miracle in milk, for it contains all necessary vitamins to sustain human psychological conditions for higher achievements. Brahminical culture can advance only when man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. And for this, there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Maharaj Parikshit was astonished to see that a black Shudra dressed like a ruler was mistreating a cow, the most important animal in human society. Age of Kali means mismanagement and quarrel. And the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men, who have no higher ambition in life, come to the helm of the state management. Such men at the post of a king are sure to first hurt the cow in the Brahminical culture, thereby pushing all society towards hell. Maharaj Parikshit, trained as he was, got the scent of this root cause of all quarrel in the world. Thus, he wanted to stop it in the very beginning.
So Parikshit Maharaj saw Shudra disguised as a ruler was hurting bull and cow. So age of Kali means the age of mismanagement and quarrel. I'm not sure if all of you have already experienced. It's not, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure all of you must have experienced this at some point of time. The root cause of mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men are sitting at the helm of state management. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that connection between Brahminical culture and cow protection is that Brahminical culture can advance only when men are educated to develop the quality of goodness, and for this there is a prime necessity of food to be prepared with milk, fruits, and grains offered to the Lord and then honor as prasadam. So to overcome the symptoms of Kali Yuga, we have to purify ourselves. And the first step for this purification process to overcome the age of Kali, the first step is to educate ourselves from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. scriptures. Questions, comments, realizations? Everybody made some comparative notes from the purport?
Yes.
All right. So I have the next verse, number 5. I have described this earlier in our discussion. I think it was Abhishek Prabhu's one of the question. Divya, verse number 5, translation and first few lines in the purport.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Saunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaja Parikshit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. Purport. Shaunaka and the rishis were astonished to hear that the pious Maharaja Parikshit simply punished the culprit and did not kill him. This suggests that a pious king like Maharaja Parikshit should have at once killed an offender who wanted to cheat the public by dressing like a king and at the same time daring to insult the purest of the animals, a cow. The rishis in those days, however, could not even imagine that in the advanced days of the age of Kali, the lowest of the Shudras will be elected as administrators and will open organized slaughterhouses for killing cows. Anyway, although hearing about a Shudraka who was a cheat and insulter of a cow was not very interesting to the great rishis, they nevertheless wanted to hear about it to see if the event had any connection with Lord Krishna.
Okay, so the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Saunaka Rishi, they were astonished that Parikshit Maharaj only punished the personification of Kali and did not kill him. And they were astonished that they actually did not know that Shudras will be elected as administrators and will open organized slaughterhouses for killing cows. Everybody can see current situation, what is described in Srimad Bhagavatam from such a long time ago.
That's the whole reason from the earlier purports that was the thing that stood out, that it is so, you can just draw reference to real time.
All right. And now comes the solution in verse number 6. Gauri, verse number 6 translation.
Verse 6 translation. The devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life?
So devotional service, Krishna Katha, is the solution to get out of the symptoms of Kali, or the mismanagement and hypocrisy and quarrel of Kali Yuga. The more we are focused on Krishna Katha, the more we are protected, and therefore verse says that devotees are simply interested in Krishna Katha. So I won't cover more verses. I will give you homework first. Write down question number 1. Which is an analogy that when flying an airplane, one cannot help other airplanes. Similarly, at the end of life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without any help rendered by another. Comes from 1.15.50. And for our next class, if you can please read the entire chapter 16 if you have not already read it. So we discussed today about you all taking responsibility for your own spiritual life. So after the class, I'm going to share the Google link to the sheet that we have on the screen for the upcoming presentations for Bhagavad Gita. So from 1st June is the plan. I'm hoping that we should be able to cover the rest of Canto 1 by end of May. And from 1st June onwards, we'll revise 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita every week. So how we'll do is that I will give a brief overview of the chapter, say chapter 1. Then we will read the translations of chapter 1, just the translations. And then one of you, whosoever is the presenter, they will present the chapter 1 in summary. Take about 10-12 minutes. I haven't put the time as Shivangi was inquiring. I'm not going to be very strict with the time. You all are now advanced enough to present properly. You have done this exercise multiple times, most of you. So you will do a summary or the essence of each chapter in about 10 minutes or so. And then we will go to the next chapter 2, the same process. So generally, as we have followed this process in the previous batches also, and it has worked. So for example, chapter number 3, Vimal Prabhu has already signed up. And I request all of you to populate your names. All those who said that they are willing to do the presentations, I'm going to share the Google link with them. There are only 1 or 2 of you who have not responded. So you can consider, I'm not going to push you. We already read from Srimad Bhagavatam that you have to take up responsibility for yourself. So I should not have the need to follow up with any one of you that how come there are no presenters for next week. No, you take up responsibility. So all of you will end up doing at least 2 presentations from the looks of it. So just make choices. Try to do the first presentation from the first about 12 chapters and the second. But I mean, some will overlap with the second presentation also be within the first 12 chapters also. Whichever days work for you. I should not have to follow up with you. You take up responsibility. I told already today that you need to take up responsibility for yourself, for your spiritual life, exactly from the analogy of the airplane flying that we discussed, that I'm not eternal. So you have to take up and become serious on the path of spirituality. And I also mentioned that next Sunday, 11th of May, at batch number 5, which starts around 9:30 a.m. Toronto time, which is roughly 30 minutes after this batch 3 and 4 class end. So next Sunday, 11th May at batch 5, 9:30 a.m. Toronto time is offenses to avoid class. You should all try to get a refresher because offenses are the single most important item to do so as to quickly advance on the path of spirituality. When I say to do means to not do offenses so as to quickly advance on the path of spirituality. Any questions, comments, realizations? We are at 9 a.m. Toronto time. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.